If you've been struggling with sleep, specifically insomnia, I know about the tricky relationship that we tend to have with sleeping pills, specifically over-the-counter medication, maybe melatonin, or even prescription strength medication. I know it can make you feel so guilty, like you shouldn't be taking them, and you just wish that you could recover without them. I'm Fiona. I'm a recovered chronic insomniac turned holistic sleep coach. And in today's video, I'm going to be speaking a little bit about my own experience, my own recovery journey, my own experience with sleeping pills, how I finally recovered without them. And also towards the end of this video, looking back on my experience and also knowing everything that I know now, I'm also going to give you a 3 to 4 step process as to how you can also approach this situation moving forwards. To start with, I do want to emphasize that I'm only speaking from my own personal experience. Yes, I'm a certified sleep coach, but that still doesn't make me a doctor or a licensed therapist. So this does not replace medical advice. I can only speak from my own experience and my own journey in also helping other people recover from insomnia. So if you are watching this and you feel like you need additional support or actually medical intervention, please know that this does not replace that. Let's get straight into it. Like a lot of us, my insomnia started through stressful life events. I was going through a lot at the time. It was summer. I was moving cities. I was moving in with a partner at the time. I had a lot going on work-wise. There's just a lot going on. And my sleep was disrupted. This is normal. This is a part of life. But I reacted poorly to the fact that my sleep was not what I ideally wanted it to be, okay? I thought that the fact that I wasn't sleeping was an issue, and this in itself triggered the cycle of insomnia. I very quickly believed that I was broken, that I couldn't sleep anymore. I had all the fear, all of the panic, all of the anxiety, and very early on in my journey, I consulted a therapist, I tried melatonin, I tried over-the-counter medication, and of course, just nothing really helped. And eventually I decided to go and see a doctor. I also looked for sleep clinics in the area. I was living in Germany at the time. As someone who isn't German, it was quite difficult to also find the right support. So if you are living in a foreign country, I know that that adds a whole new level of complexity and loneliness because, oh my goodness, I definitely felt it. And I finally decided to go and see a GP. Because I was in a new city, this wasn't a GP that I knew. He was just a doctor that I found on Google who happened to have an open appointment on that day because I was absolutely desperate. I'm definitely quite the perfectionist. I'm quite high achieving. So when I set my mind on something, I just know that I need to do that thing. And on that day, I was like, right, I need to get this sorted. I need to speak to a doctor. So off I went and I took myself to this German, just general practitioner, and I went to see him. He was a really nice guy. He was sympathetic. He said that it was normal for sleep to be disrupted during this period of time. But to be honest, he didn't really say anything else. His advice was maybe you need a little bit of a change of environment. So he actually recommended that I go and stay at a hotel for a couple of nights and just like switch up my home environment or my sleeping environment, and I actually did that. He also prescribed me prescription strength medication, and he also gave me time off of work. So all of these things combined were with the intention of making me feel a little calmer, of being able to come back to like myself. And great. Obviously, I left that doctor's office and I was so hopeful. I was like, great, I've got a prescription in my hand. He had recommended you're gonna get quite a lot of like pills in this package, but I would recommend not taking it for more than 2 weeks. You don't need it for more than that. Even half a pill is enough. Right. So obviously I got myself the prescription. Of course, I slept fantastic that night. And in my mind, I felt guilty about the fact that I was taking medication. I felt like this was wrong. Like I felt like it was like just a band-aid to the problem. But at the same time, I had dealt with so much discomfort from not sleeping that the pill was still better than the discomfort associated with a completely sleepless night or multiple sleepless nights in a row. So I took the pills. I slept fine. I took myself to a hotel for the weekend, and I took a whole week off of work. I tried to keep myself busy. I was like, right, I'm not going to work. This is going to be a time where maybe I'm going to find deeper answers as to like what's going on. Eventually, I went back to work. I still kept taking the medication. And because the doctor had also said that a half a pill was enough, that meant that I had quite a big supply for medication. And I do want to emphasize here that I know that there are so many people that struggle with taking sleeping pills for an extended period of time. And I just want you to know that I am in no means trying to compare my story to yours. I'm simply sharing from my own personal experience. But because he had only recommended 2 weeks and I would only take a quarter to half a pill, that also meant that I ended up having medication that would last me up to, I think, 6 weeks. When the end of that 2 weeks came up, I was petrified of not taking the medication. And because it was there, it was like the quick and easy fix to take it. So I did. I kept taking my medication for quite a while. In my opinion, that ended up being 6 weeks, and leaning up or kind of getting close to the point in which I wasn't going to have medication anymore. I said to myself, right, this isn't a permanent solution. I also was living in Germany. Prescription strength medication isn't so easily available as it is in some other countries. So I decided that, okay, that once the medication was going to run out, that was going to be it, that I wasn't going to lean back and go back to taking any other medication. And yes, I was terrified. Yes, I had so much anxiety. This was also back when I had zero knowledge about what insomnia was. I didn't know how to break the cycle. I wasn't really working with a knowledgeable sleep coach for insomnia. It was just me and Google, and ChatGPT wasn't even a thing back then. And I didn't find other useful resources online. I just really felt super alone. So by the time the pills ran out, obviously I felt like I had gone straight back to square one. Like the full 6 weeks in which I had slept, they had been completely erased. And there was still something inside of me that was like, okay, well, I just know that the pills just aren't a solution. So that's why I personally decided not to go back and take them. Not because I didn't want to, I definitely did. There's this psychological dependence on sleeping pills that is maybe not physiological, but it's definitely psychological, meaning that your mind feels the need that it needs something external to you in order to make you sleep. And needless to say that I went on to struggle with insomnia for a very long time after that. I obviously also tried all sorts of over-the-counter medication after. I still tried melatonin. I tried valerian root tea. I tried different supplements. I tried magnesium, because there was still something in my brain that was not convinced that I couldn't control the situation. So I definitely tried everything. Even though I didn't take medication for a very long time, that doesn't mean that I didn't struggle with insomnia for a very long time. I just realized that medication wasn't the solution. And I'll get into why that is in a second. But eventually, how I actually recovered was that I educated myself, actually. I finally found a resource online. I found someone's book. Somebody shared their story on their own insomnia recovery. And I finally started understanding, okay, the fact that I'm actually chasing sleep is the problem itself. Sleep is something that's effortless. I learned that nothing can actually control sleep, that I was in fact getting in the way of that process by trying to chase it. And because I had internalized that the fact that I wasn't sleeping was a problem. So as soon as I started recognizing this pattern, I truly tried to understand, okay, how can I actually make myself comfortable at night? How can I also start seeing this problem as somebody who didn't have a sleeping issue? So oftentimes, and my sister had an intervention with me and said, like, gosh, you're implementing all these rules, all these techniques, but realistically, like, you don't need that. And with her saying that, it really, I had like a light bulb moment, and I realized, okay, I kept asking myself day in and day out, would I be doing these things? Would I be worrying about this thing if sleep weren't an issue? And I know it's easier said than done. I definitely didn't have all the answers at first, but the answer was always no. The answer was no, I don't need sleeping pills. No, I don't need melatonin. No, I've never needed this before. So as soon as I started educating myself on sleep, that's when I started realizing, okay, the problem isn't that I don't know how to sleep. It's the fact that I think that I don't know how to sleep, and the fact that I'm trying to chase it that is actually the problem to begin with. So eventually I dealt with the discomfort. I also signed up to do a insomnia recovery program online. This is not CBTI. I just want to emphasize that. I had tried CBTI before. CBTI did not work for me. It was way too restricting. It had way too many rules. It just did not work. It also still implied that sleep could be controlled. So I signed up to do a program that was like CBTI inspired, but also had a lot of different elements that I also now implement in my own coaching, which is more inspired in acceptance and commitment therapy, which also has roots in educating us around the cycle of our thoughts and emotions. That was one of the most powerful things that I had to learn on this journey, was that my thoughts, my fears, and everything that I was worried about happening in the future were not real. And once I started realizing that I could spend time with my thoughts without actually engaging and reacting to them, I was also interrupting that emotional loop. So that obviously also took quite a lot of time on a night-to-night basis, because I get this asked all the time, like, well, what did you do when you couldn't sleep? Well, number one, I didn't look at the clock, so I made it I made a very strict rule that clock watching was not a part of my recovery. Two, I had a journal by my bedside table every single night that I would go to in case I couldn't sleep. So I would kind of write down all of my worries. I would dump all of my thoughts down on paper. And I always had a plan as to what I would do in case I couldn't sleep. So this isn't something that I'm going to do in order to make myself sleepy. This is genuinely something I could do to enjoy and could take back control of my time. That was reading for me. I would always just like have my journal and my book by my bedside table, and I knew that if the thoughts and emotions were there, I had a resource where I could deal with them. And two, I also had a book that I could kind of go back to and read. And I would just keep coming back to that cycle. And trust me, I would sometimes get out of bed 10 times a night. I would 100% have to use the bathroom so many times. And I don't like talking about like how long my recovery took, because it's also not about that. It's like if I tell you how long my recovery took, you're going to take what I say and you're going to try and compare your story to mine, and it's really not about that. So it's really just, I think if anything, it's that journey of finding the right answers, the right support, and also the right tools that allow you to befriend wakefulness and ultimately also the discomfort. So now that you know that, that's kind of like how I approach, that's my own story with medication. I'm going to go into what I would do if I were in your position now. So if you're currently in the position in which you are taking sleeping pills and you do not want to be on them, you feel guilty, you just don't know what to do, then these are the steps that I would recommend if I were in your position. So number one, and the most important thing that you can do on this journey, is to educate yourself on sleep and insomnia. Unfortunately, we live in a world where not enough people truly understand the cycle of insomnia. So similar to me, doctors, therapists, even CBTI therapists often fail to see the fear associated with not sleeping. They imply, and the world implies, that sleep can be controlled. Have a dark enough room, do sleep hygiene, stimulus control, all implies the controllability of sleep. Sleep can't be controlled. So the more you also educate yourself on what insomnia is and also how sleep happens, you'll start to understand where you exactly land on that spectrum. Okay, you'll understand what you can do moving forwards. And if you do not know what insomnia is, or what you even need to do in order to break the cycle, I have also linked my 30-minute free masterclass below, where I walk step by step through what insomnia is, what sleep is, and also what are the 4 layers that you need in order to recover holistically. So without strict rules and without medication. So go ahead and check that out if this is also new for you. And number 2, if you're currently taking medication and you want to come off of it, my suggestion is that you make a plan and you stick with it. You do not treat this like an experiment. When you treat things like as an experiment, they usually backfire because the thoughts and the emotions are going to be there. The discomfort is going to be there. And when you treat this as an experiment, you're going to say to yourself, well, it just doesn't work. I need to take the pills. But when you recognize that the thoughts and the emotions and the discomfort are going to be there, but you stick to a plan and you make a plan for yourself and you're consistent and dedicated to stick with it, it's going to be a lot easier for you to face that discomfort head on. Insomnia is unbelievably uncomfortable. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. But realistically, it's not about escaping that discomfort. It's about meeting it and knowing that by meeting it and confronting it, you can also get to the other side where it no longer exists. So if that plan means that you're going to go cold turkey, do that. That's what I did. It worked for me. It doesn't work for everyone. Maybe for other people, it means that you take half a pill or 3/4 of a pill for a few days. Whatever it is, just try your best to make a plan, stick with it, and also meet yourself with self-kindness and compassion along the way. If you end up failing and not sticking to the plan, that's also okay. Nobody's asking you to be perfect. All that insomnia is asking you to do is try and show up and meet the discomfort when you can and have kindness and compassion with yourself when you can't. Number 3, and it kind of goes on step 2, is that I would spend time befriending the discomfort. We talk a lot about befriending wakefulness, which means how can I approach the night without escaping it? But we also fail to see that we should also befriend the discomfort. The thoughts and emotions that arise through insomnia are signals, not flaws. They exist to warn us of a potential threat. And when we try and push them away or run away from them, they simply get louder because that means that our brain is identifying that we aren't listening to its concerns. So it's really important for you to befriend this discomfort. I have quite a lot of videos around how you can do that. One of my favorite ways truly is through journaling, through also sitting with your thoughts and emotions, maybe doing breath work, doing body scans. These are different techniques that help ground you in the present moment and allow you to experience the full range of your emotions without distraction, running away, and without talking back to your mind. And number 4, and if you've watched some of my other videos, you will know this so well, I recommend you do this above all else, is to practice self-kindness and compassion. Oftentimes, and every single person I speak to, we are very hard on ourselves. We're our worst critics. We feel so unbelievably broken by simply being on this journey. And Insomnia Recovery is actually asking you to be softer and kinder to yourself. So just please try and think, would I be speaking in this way to someone I love who is struggling with the same? Most likely the answer to that is no. So maybe ask yourself why that isn't available to you and start changing that dialogue. The more you start taking back control over that dialogue and you start implementing a lot more self-kindness and compassion, the easier this journey also gets. Anyway, that is all for today's video. If you have any thoughts, comments, concerns regarding your current situation with medication and you'd like a little bit of my own perspective, again, I am not a medical professional or a licensed therapist, you can go ahead and drop those in a comment below and I promise to get back to you.